Namaskar. Welcome all of you to the second day of World Education Summit. This is the 17th edition of World Education Summit, and 16 editions have been held in physical locations in hotels uh, across Delhi, Hyderabad, Mumbai, Dubai, Bahrain, UK, Denver, uh, and now in this 17th edition, thanks to COVID-19, we are doing something new. We are having these virtual sessions, and I am proud to say that we are having more than 100 eminent speakers from all around the globe in this World Education Summit Higher Education Edition, which is happening from yesterday, and this is the second day, and we are doing this event on our 3D platform, which is called Avatar. So uh, we have a virtual 3D expo also happening on the field of education. So all the delegates have a experience of attending this event virtually on this 3D platform, both in the conference hall and in the expo hall. And in this first day of the session, uh, we have our eminent speakers here, and I can see that other speakers are joining in. And so I welcome our speakers, and I request our senior colleague Karthik Sharma to moderate the session. So I am handing over the session to him. Karthik, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravi Gupta. And as you said that it is the 7th World Education Summit, and this time it is 17. Sorry, I'm sorry, I just missed the word. So it's 17th World Education Summit, and this World Education Summit has a great legacy. Initially, we had Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, former President of India, to be the chief guest of this World Education Summit. And thereafter, many country heads and many education ministers from across the world have been participating here, and also the policy makers and the institutes, educators, top educators joined here. And it has become a great platform every year for the gathering of stalwarts and leaders from across the world. And similarly, in this opening session of day 2, we have leaders with us speaking on a very important issue, rather I would say a very important topic to be discussed, and it is about the new education policy of India. And in this new education policy, what are the opportunities, and especially for the best practices which we can discuss, and even we have global perspective with us here in this discussion. So this panel is of very eminent and very interesting panelists. So I would introduce the panel with you. Couple of them, 3 of the speakers have already joined here, and we'll be joined by other 2 in a short while. Once I'll introduce each of you, and then we'll request for the address. In this session, we have Srimati V. Vigneshwari, IAS, Director of Collegiate Education, Government of Kerala, with us. Professor Dr. K.K. Aggawal, Chairman of National Board of Accreditation, NBA. Professor H.D. Charan, who is Vice Chancellor of Bikaner Technical University, and Ernest Nana Adjei, who is Minister Counsellor for Political and Economic Affairs in Ghana High Commission of India, and Ms. Nazuk Kumar, who is IAS and Director of Technical Education in Chandigarh. So as we can see, the panel is of international perspective, policy makers and educators. We all have all of them here in this discussion, and I will start this discussion. And the first speaker I would like to invite, can we have Vigneshwari ji's camera on, please? My technical team can please connect. Okay, you are there.
Yeah.
So, hello, ma'am. Welcome to the World Education Summit. Can you hear? Am I audible? Am I audible to you?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. You're audible, but the thing is, there's a break in between, so I'm not able to follow what you're saying.
Okay, so I'm just saying that we are starting with this opening session of day two, and you, all of you, know the topic. It is about new education policy and integrating with best practices, and still there are some audio and video issues with Vigneshwari ji's. So we will start with Professor H.D. Charan, who is Vice Chancellor of Bikaner Technical University. Professor Charan is handling Technical University, which is looking after almost half of Rajasthan, all the technical education institutes he is stating, and he is the one person who is very popular for doing innovations and various innovative thought process is going on in his leadership in Bikaner Technical University. So I will request Professor Charan to kindly give your initial remarks, Professor.
Sure. Thank you very much. I welcome all the dignitaries in this World Summit. Welcome all. The new education policy has been talked a lot all over India. Everyone is talking about new education policy, and it is being declared somewhere that is has been talked from a very root level of panchayat to the school level to the highest level of the education, the higher education, academician, administrators, everyone is discussing about this. And very well they are mentioning that this policy will change the direction of India, and not only a direction of India, but it will change the direction. It certainly will give the direction to the whole world, and that's what's being called that it will be a very policy based on global thought and well-being of people all over the world. So when so many things are being taught, being talk of about new education policy, then certainly we have to see the depth in the inside the policy. What is about this? So it is being thought that this can change whole scenario of nation, national development and development of the people, and to the level that they can think of the well-being of the whole world. So if I see the content of this policy, I will not go to the restructuring of it, restructuring of university or restructuring of the apex system, governing system, because I think this restructuring of apex system or restructuring the university will not change much. It's only the content of the education that may make the change to the pupil and the pupil from generation to generation. And therefore, I look into the heart of this policy, why it is being uh, expected from this policy that it can make a change. Now, if I see the heart of it, the very purpose it is written, the purpose of the it's very education is written. The purpose of education is to develop a good human beings. Good human beings that which are capable of rational thought and action. Their conduct, behavior, and action should be rational, based on rational thinking, and thinking of what they are doing on an ethical basis. In the next line, it's again written that they should possess a compassion and empathy, and with imagination with sound ethical moorings and values. Not only in the purpose, in the vision also is written. And I have gone through the complete document. It's written at number of places in almost each and every paragraph, every page of the policy document, smart document, is written in one word or another. In the vision also is written that uh, it should have a deep sense of fundamental duties and bonding with the country and have a conscious awareness of one's role and responsibility in changing world. Now, each and every word has got its own meaning. When I read it once, twice, I found the one word cannot be replaced by another. when they say that it should have a holistic development of learner, with the thinking that whatever he is doing, that should be based on ethical reasoning. And in the continuation, they also told that it's based on the knowledge with wisdom, not only simple knowledge, but should be based on knowledge with wisdom, leading to explore the truths of the existence, and to attain the highest goal of the life, and that too based on Indian thoughts and philosophy. In other words, that is, that they will learn about the liberation of self, that is the self-exploration. That becomes the basis of this whole policy. And in continuation to that, it is being written that they'll have a good knowledge and practice of human values. Not only simply knowledge, but a practice that is very important. And whereby they are telling that this education should be in the position to develop a citizenship with a global education.
Right.
And in other words, also number of places this has written that they should have an education where it's a talk of peace, tolerance, non-violence, that selflessness, and the work with values. I think these things are the major part where it is education policy, which is talking of a global citizenship education. Now, if one paragraph clearly written that education is policy should lead to a developing and maximizing our country's talent and resources. For what? For good of individual, the society, the country, and the world. So this is a common where we are talking is a global education policy here. Whatever talent we have, that is to be utilized for a good for oneself, individual, not individual, then to the society, not only the society, the country, not only our country, development of our nation, and that is for the world. And therefore, again, it's written somewhere that the person should not confine to the subject. There are thought to have two baskets. One concerned with the subject knowledge of the concerned person, whether it is reading, engineering, medical, arts, commerce, and the another basket is the full development of the personality. At the Indian context, they were telling that we have a 64 kalaya, 64 kalaya. So all the 64 arts of the learning from the human being is required to have. So this is something special about this policy. This policy has, in the beginning, if I see the very first, that page, very first page where the introduction is given, there is written that the education is fundamentally for enriching full human potential. Three things are written in the very third page introduction. The education is fundamentally for enriching the full human potential, one thing. Secondly, the development of holistic, development of equitable and just society. The society have a equal right to each and everyone and justice to everyone, fearlessness, truth between the people, the trust between the people. And third, they have written the leading to the development of the nation. So these three basic parameters the education policy is addressing. And I think here these three parameters is finally will decide that this policy is not only meant for a one person, it is leading to change from person to the society, society to the nation, and nation to the whole environment, not environment when I'm talking the whole world. And when I'm talking the whole world, of course, written a number of places about the environment, the right utilization of the resources, that's the air, water, everything.
Right.
And therefore, I think these three parameters we have to limit that how these three parameters mean. Full potential means the person should have an ability to live in a continuous happiness, not only happiness based on the events. It's a continuous happiness. When he talk of the continuous happiness, he should be able to identify his needs and develop a potential so that how that need can be satisfied by doing some service or doing some production. Not in terms of the
Right.
package, but to utilize how that is can be used. And not only that, they'll develop an attitude to live with other human beings on the basis of equal potential. And not on the human beings, so how to live in the environment. So that's how full human potential based on relationship, living with the harmony with the other people and living in the coexistence, not with the people in the whole environment, including our complete living, non-living things. And when I talk of the next thing, an equitable and just society, it should have developed a goal for an equitable and just society. For doing work for the others, and when we talk about doing work with the other will certainly will think of you. If you think of others, others will be think of you. So justice should be based that's available to each and everyone. We have to decide the goal for that, and we have to materialize the goal with the same goal. If we say, for example, if I talk of the health, then it should be holistic health. Health should not be purpose of maximize the profit. It should be based on the service. If I talk of the education, education means to have a holistic development of the person. It's development of the full potential of the person. And therefore, such a person will lead to the ultimately development of the nation. Therefore, these three parameters that
Right.
we
Prof,
need to materialize.
mute. You have gone on mute, Professor Charan. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Is it okay now?
Yes. Yes.
So, so these three parameters, that's full human potential, equitable and just society, and development of the nation. These three things are very well written, and I think these three things are to be
Great.
fulfilled through this policy. As you know, we have a number of the system working in the society. There's the education, health, justice, production, exchange of the things, and preservation of things, and the government. Now, education is the basis of it, everything. For all the systems where society will operate and ultimately nation will work, for each and everything, education is the basis. Because education will uh, ultimately develop a person who will be responsible for operating this system with full knowledge, full responsibility, and sense of belongingness to each and everyone. When you talk of the equitable and just society, that the society should ensure the well-being of each and everyone. They should have the harmony.
Sure.
Yes.
Right, Professor Charan. I think the three major points which you have highlighted here
Right.
are very clearly mentioned by you here in this, and I'll come back to you with more questions and more
Sure.
to take more views of yours later on in this discussion. And
Sure.
you have set a very right parameter of this discussion of highlighting the major things apart from the subject knowledge, how this new education policy is stressing upon making a good human being, making a good society with more social values and stress on the relationships. And also the whole concept of life is to be given in this new education policy. Rightly pointed out. I'll now come back to the policy maker who is here with us from Government of Kerala, who is Director of College Education, Vigneshwari ji, a dynamic young IS officer. What are your views on this new education policy, and how do you see that? And your initial remarks, please.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. And I initially apologize for all the technical issues which I have to face and let you face also. So, this new education policy is long overdue. It has been 34 years since the last policy was evolved. And now, at least it's time that we change it, and it's a good step forward. But it has been all said well in the paper, but how are we going to implement it is still a big question mark. So regarding our education now that it is moving from, as mentioned in the policy in itself, it's moving from rote learning to critical thinking, logical analysis, and everything. But will our education system be able to provide all this? Because I believe presently the education system is not moving in this direction, but right the opposite direction is what it is moving now. For example, now the famous American astronomer Carl Sagan used to remark whenever he enters kindergarten, saying that he can see a bunch of enthusiastic, curious kids sitting in the classroom. But when he enters high school or secondary or graduation, what he sees is a bunch of students who are ready to accept whatever is being taught. They don't want to raise any questions. They're just accepting inadequate answers. So they don't ask any follow-up questions. So our education system has rather destroyed the inquisitiveness of a child. We can see a child asking questions like, why do we have two eyes? Why do we have only one nose? And why do we have only one mouth? But rather in 10th or 11th standard, we are more interested in drawing a picture of an optic nerve of an eye rather than asking ourselves on the need for eye and how does it work and what is the science behind it. So this has been indicated in the new national education policy, but will we be able to address it and how are we going to go about it? And second thing is, since this topic is all about global best practices, I'm just reminded of the days when I, as a kid, used to watch American teleserials, and I used to hope to have such an education system, because what I saw was a student in 6th grade was able to select his own subject. He was able to select something in arts, something in science, something in humanities. It's not like Indian system wherein we are just compelled to choose one, leaving the other unattended. But here he was able to choose his own subject, and there was some activities in the name in the form of book reviews, experiential learnings, which were lacking in the Indian system. So if this national education policy is implemented in a way it is envisaged, that would definitely give a breakthrough in the field of education. And as far as our higher education is concerned, India is having one of the highest number of institutions. For example, it's almost around 20,000. But the number of students who are average intake in one particular institution is to the range of 300 to 400. And it's mostly predominantly one stream oriented. This in no way is going to help a student attain the holistic development or holistic knowledge. A campus is not something where one goes only for the sake of textbook education or graduation. It's a society, it's a community as a whole, where a student gets to learn other parts of life, because it is a transition from the school to the outside world. Are our campuses able to address those? Are we equipped to provide the student a better learning environment? Rather, if we see the other colleges in institutions in other countries like US or Japan or China for that matter, they have 3,000, 4,000 students in one particular campus, which means a student is exposed to different kind of students, different kind of people, different streams of education, and they evolve in the process of learning. It's high time that India also follows such a model, so that once the students, even now, if a student is graduated, once he or she comes out of her institution, he or she remains clueless, at least for 1 year. They get to take up jobs which comes their way. It is not as per their passion, it's not as per their skills or competencies. We don't give such sort of training in the colleges. What we are is, we are just sticking to the curriculum, doing whatever is required. And this is how our system is, and hopefully the new national education policy, if it is implemented in spirit, would definitely address all these issues. And one curious student whom we have all seen probably would be Amir Khan in 3 Idiots. And he is the one who used to learn for the sake of learning, for the sake of understanding things. But even he was named as idiot. So we need to come out of that mindset and accept everyone, no matter the question is dumb or something. We just need to create a bunch of curious students who are ready to learn, enjoy the process of learning, and in turn do something to the society, as mentioned by Professor H.D. Charan, VC of Bikaner Technological University. So these are the initial remarks. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Really great views. And there are in NEP, there are various reformative points are there. They are focusing on reforms, but how we will be able to implement those reforms is very important. And as you rightly said that, but I would like to say that all the great inventors were initially called idiots by society, but they were then proved to be great inventors. So you are right, and we should facilitate more of learning and joy of learning to the students in this new education policy. Now I will come to a very eminent panelist, a very important person to talk on this topic, Professor Dr. K.K. Aggawal, who is chairperson of NBA, as I had introduced initially, and he has joined now. So Professor Aggawal, I will request you to put up your perspective and National Board of Accreditation's perspective also, and your ideas generally. I would like to request you for your initial remarks in this panel discussion.
Thank you for the introduction, and I'm so happy to be a part of this very distinguished panel to express my views on the subject. The topic of the session which you have given here is New National Education Policy Integrating with Global Best Practices. When initially I learned of the session, I thought there'll be enough time to speak, but now I find the session is quite crowded with quite a few panelists. So I'll just take a couple of points. The global best practices, how this policy is bringing in. So I'll just take a couple of points which have been translated into this policy for implementation. First and the foremost is affiliation system. This country had suffered from a system of affiliation of colleges for last 125 years. As a matter of fact, this system was given to us by Britishers as a legacy of Oxford University, and Oxford itself had given the system up 50 years before we became independent. So imagine, we continued with 50 years of a British regime and 75 years thereafter to continue with the affiliation system. Now, this is a system which academically has never been respected in the whole world, because this is a system which is completely disempowering the teacher. You cannot have any good education system where teacher is not empowered. And in the affiliation system, the syllabus is drawn by somebody else sitting in the higher education office or the university office, and the sheet of the paper goes to the teacher that this is what you're supposed to teach. Now, what has to be the reason behind? The teacher doesn't know. Then the teacher teaches whatever he feels like the meaning of that piece of paper. And then the student writes in the examination. Then the answer book goes to a third person who neither drafted the syllabus nor taught the course. So he has his own sense of imagination, what the student must have understood, should have understood, and evaluates accordingly. So we have a complete disconnect between the flow of the knowledge and the flow of the credits. So this is, I feel, one of the very great contributions of this policy, that system of affiliation is supposed to be completely finished with in next 10 to 15 years. And we will all have either universities or degree awarding institutions, so that the teacher and the student can have a direct connect as to what is to be taught. Please remember, this is very important. I remember a story. Einstein taught for 2 sessions in a university, and in the second session, when he was distributing question papers, his assistant who was with him, he said, "Sir, you have brought last year's question papers and you are distributing the same. Probably you made a mistake." He says, "No, no, I am right." He says, "Sir, but this question paper is the same which you distributed last year." He says, "Yes, but I taught the course differently. Therefore, I expect different answers this time." Now that has to be the philosophy of teaching. How do we communicate to the student in spirit, not in terms of words? So this is what I feel is a very great contribution of this policy, that affiliation system is recognized as a system to be thrown out. Second important contribution, which is in line with the global best practices, it's outcome-based education. The policy recognizes you define first what should a student achieve at the end of the course or at the end of the duration of the course, and then work backwards in that direction. I, as Chairman, National Board of Accreditation, we have been practicing outcome-based education for about last 12 years in engineering education in this country. But let me tell the august audience here connected today that outcome-based education is not only for engineering. It is for all education. And as a matter of fact, going to the history of the world, the outcome-based education was introduced in United States of America in 1990s by a school teacher teaching sociology. So it was not higher education, it was not engineering education, it was a school teacher teaching sociology, and she introduced outcome-based education. And the philosophy is very simple. It says don't focus on when and how. At the moment, our education system says, when are you fit to join engineering? When are you fit to join medical? That's not the way they say to go about. And how many years you will take? That is our focus. Engineering has to be 4 years. It cannot be 3.5. It cannot be 5. So on and so forth. Architecture has to be 5. God knows why. And so on and so forth. But outcome-based education says, what do you want the student to achieve? And then just certify whether he has achieved it or not. So two key words are what and whether. What do you want the student to achieve, and whether he or she has achieved it or not. So that is outcome-based education that has been again focused on this policy. And another point, this policy for the first time has killed, or at least has attempted to kill, the boundaries between subjects. Otherwise, even in the 11th and 12th, your humanities, your commerce, your medical science, your non-medical science, these partitions are so rigid that even I used to say in lighter vein, not only your parents, entire mohalla is worried whether you got medical, whether you got non-medical, could you get commerce? And the school principal says, because your marks are less than 75%, therefore you cannot study commerce. I mean, as if that's an essential requirement to study commerce. So this is attempted to being done away with. Every student will have a right to study what they wish to study. Well, they may take more time if they so wish to. They may take more courses, they may take more years, but they cannot be denied. Today, if you fall sick on the night of 10th class examination and reduce your marks by 10%, there is no mechanism in the country to make you engineer or doctor. Because your 10th marks are less, therefore you will not get to study science in 11th and 12th. And if you don't study science in 11th and 12th, you can never become engineer or doctor. Now that's a very unfortunate part to the younger generation, which has been killed away in this policy. Karthik, you can raise your hand when you want me to stop. The next point which I thought I'll bring in is, it is the multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity which has been brought into in this policy for the first time, which was completely lacking in this country. Completely lacking in this country. There was no mechanism that one could even think as to of interdisciplinary education. I was giving PhD degrees at a convocation, and I asked a young girl, what are you doing after your PhD degree? She says, sir, I am going abroad. I says, which department? She says, sir, I am in chemical biophysics department. Now, imagine a professor of this country having held responsible positions. I can't understand that a department in this country can be named as chemical biophysics department. Here, chemistry teachers will always be fighting with bio teachers, with physics teachers. Students will be fighting. And how can you have a department of chemical biophysics? I said, why are you going to chemical biophysics department? She says, sir, I want to research on why some children are not born deaf. Now, if I want to study why some children are born deaf, I must understand the anatomy of human ear. So bio is a must for me. I must understand how the fluids in the ear work. So chemistry is important for me. I must understand how the sound waves work. Therefore, physics is important for me. So I wanted to locate a department which has expertise in physics, chemistry, and bio, and therefore I chose this department. It set me wondering. That means in this country we can never solve this research problem because we will never have a department of chemical biophysics so far. So this policy is at least making a beginning that we can have multidisciplinary areas of work. So these are few global practices. I can go on and on, but I know the time is short, and therefore I'll prefer to stop here just by counting these three, 4 points. And if there's an opportunity, maybe I'll take little more sometimes. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor. And really, you stressed upon a very important point that how we can be a little less traditional now. Why things which are from British era are there? Why these things cannot be changed and cannot be changed for good? That is really right, and this NEP is focusing on it, and how it gets implemented is a question. But before we come to question and answers, we have one speaker from Ghana, and with great pleasure, I would like to invite him to share his views. And before that, I would just like to introduce him to all of you because he is will be giving a perspective on Ghana. And his I will just introduce him. He will share his perspective on the various facets of India-Ghana cooperation with a special focus on cooperation in education sector. India and Ghana enjoy close and deep relations at government to government, business to business, and public to public level. Cooperation in the education sector is one such area which has the potential to take the relationship to new heights. And Mr. Ernest will elaborate more on that. And over to you, Mr. Ernest. Thank you for joining us, and your initial remarks, please.
Thank you so much, and good morning to everybody. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for the opportunity given to me. And it gives me great pleasure to be with you this morning, and also to thank the organizers for this wonderful summit. As we all know, this summit has grown to acquire a formidable reputation as a platform that promotes innovation, investments, technology, and global partnerships in the area of education.
I think some technical issue with Mr. Ernest.
Is to share thoughts, perspectives of Ghana-India collaboration in higher education with the key objective of developing a platform to identify and take advantage of the best practices.
I think our speaker from Ghana has got disconnected. Can my technical team please check with him? And okay, he has joined again. There's some technical glitch. Yeah.
Hear me? Please, please. Can you
Yeah,
hear
you're
me?
back, Mr. Ernest.
Yeah. Can you now? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So as I was saying, my intention is to make to interrogate the educational policies of India and Ghana within the context of the SDGs and the Millennium Agenda. All over the world, governments encourage universities to promote technological advancement by investing public funds into research and development and stimulate linkages between academia and the private sector. This is because the changing dynamics of the global world has created the need for global citizens that are endowed with keen awareness of political, economic, social, and environmental concerns of our time. Our interconnected world demands that we are not only people who understand our society or our country, but also we have a thorough understanding of other nations, other cultures, and languages. Tony Kirkwood, in his piece, Our Global Age Requires Global Education, clarifying definitional ambiguities, noted, and I quote, globally educated people are those who possess high-tech skills, broad interdisciplinary knowledge about the contemporary world, and adaptability, flexibility, and world-mindedness to participate effectively in the globalized world, unquote. As espoused in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 4, inclusive education is the overall goal for education that is endorsed by Ghana and also adopted by India in 2015. The purpose, therefore, is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The SDGs internationally agreed goals, so as the educational development agenda is an aspiration of all countries. The world is changing rapidly and transforming the models of the acquisition and use of knowledge. The above, perhaps, must have informed the framers of the African Union's Agenda 2063, titled Africa We Want, to call for an education and skills revolution to meet the human race needs for inspiring Africa's socio-economic development. With the African Union quite correctly placed a high premium on science, technology, and innovation as critical ingredients for achieving the Agenda 2063. Distinguished panelists, I just want to reiterate over here that the quality and relevance of higher education or tertiary education can therefore be summarized simply as its fitness for purpose, which I believe uh, the speakers ahead of me have alluded to that, and often determined by quality of graduates that is measured by employability of graduates and the impact that make on society and the ability in general to provide solutions to developmental challenges in their country and the world at large. Therefore, relevance is very fundamental and indispensable in our discussion on quality of higher education. From my readings of the Indian policy and listening to the eminent speakers before me, I'm convinced that a lot of efforts and consultations went into the crafting of the national education policy for India, which is aimed at addressing the many growing developmental issues. It proposes the revision or revamping of all aspects of the education structure, including its regulation and governance, to create a new system that is aligned with aspiration and all the aspirational goals of the 21st century education. That is also included in the SDGs, while building upon India's traditions and value system. I was intrigued and very challenged with the pushing of the policy, and I want to quote, to instill among the learners a deep-rooted pride in being Indian, not only in thought, but also in spirit, intellect, and deeds, as well as to develop knowledge, skills, values, and dispositions that support responsible commitment to human rights, sustainable development, and living in global well-being, thereby reflecting a truly global citizen, unquote. This is very challenging, and I must say that anyone who takes this policy and goes to the point of seeing this vision must be convinced that India is indeed a serious country and ready to bring the dynamics and changes that the world needs to play. The new policy seeks to promote enhanced quality of universities, colleges, and to transform higher education into multidisciplinary universities and colleges, thereby ending the fragmentation of higher education to achieve the desired global impact. Like India, and indeed, as many other countries across the world, the demand for higher education in Ghana has been growing considerably over the last decade or two. In response to this development, new public universities and non-universities tertiary institutions have been established, while facilities in exercising institutions have been upgraded to increase their enrollment capacity and to satisfy international standards. Policy reforms have also led to a dramatic increase in the number of private sector tertiary education providers. Many of these interventions, however, had been guided by isolated policies and piecemeal reform initiatives. It is in this regard and to meet realities that Ghana adopted a new policy in 2019. So as you see, there are
Right.
similarities, and Ghana and India, we share common values. We share a lot of things in common. And I must say
Right.
that the policy aims at creating a tertiary education system that is fit for purpose and able to respond to the changing needs of a learning society and a knowledge-driven economy in the 21st century. The comprehensive policy provides clear guidelines for the ultimate structure, planning, development, regulation, operation, and all over governance of the higher education system. I want to
Yes,
say
Mr. Ernest.
that
Yes, Mr. Ernest, if you just wrap up in a minute so that I can have more questions to all of you,
uh,
because there are audience questions already coming in. We have 10 more minutes. Yeah.
and the similarities of our policies, it is important that talking about Ghana-India relations and going forward our collaboration, I want to profile some few points that we can consider in our discussions. One, a concerted effort between our two countries to promote programs that prepare the youth. That is one. Two, that both countries should work or take accelerated steps, Ghana and India, to promote participation of girl students and women in advanced science and technology. And the third point, that higher education is becoming increasingly competitive, particularly attracting talent, both faculty and students. Therefore, Ghana-India collaboration will inure to the benefits of both countries in both areas, particularly student and faculty exchanges. I really want to
Right.
say that it is great we having the opportunity to talk about this. And as I close, I would want to once again thank the organizers and reiterate that we encourage deeper interaction on this matter, and which is key for development of our nation. And Ghana and India are on the path of cultivating creativity, innovation, as well as developing leaders that are capable of solving challenges facing the future generations. and in development of our human capital, we can adequately deal with the present and future challenges. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ernest Nana. And you have rightly stressed upon Ghana and India relationship and how Ghana looks after looking towards the NEP to build more stronger relations of the two countries and more human capital development in both the countries. Thank you so much. I have got questions also now from audience. So there's first question from you, Professor Charan. एक question has and that question is about I'm just reading out the question to you. It is about the academic bank of credit. ये जो academic bank of credit का concept है, do you have any views to share about it? How it will help? Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Actually, in this policy, student has got the maximum freedom, and probably he shall be the king of this. He will be treated as a king. So he has a facility to when to join, when to leave, when to come back. So time, everything can be decided by him. So that's where one bank is to be created. So whatever he has learned, that can be stored there, that can be accounted there. And if he wanted to use for some purpose, for some degree, if it's relevant for that, that can be used for that, so that nothing can go waste. Now, which institute should be eligible for that credit which can be kept in the bank? Then national apex body will recognize those institutes. There may be national institute, there may be international institutes. So that way, whatever he is earning, that will not go waste. Simply the way, say we keep our money in the bank and withdraw that money for some purpose, and account is maintained there. So similarly, he can have the record of credit he had earned, and whatever being used for some degree, some purpose, that can be recorded. So this is very much very good freedom, flexibility to the student, and that right way he will be the king in this, is the center of the policies.
Right. Thank you so much for enlightening us with this significance of academic bank of credit. There's a question for you, Professor K.K. Aggawal. The question is, what is the major challenge to bring NEP on ground? That has to, what it has to overcome. What are the challenges and how these can be overcome to put NEP on ground?
Yeah, to put NEP on ground, I think the greatest challenge is change the mindset, because we all will have to accept that from the rule-based working, we have to go to freedom of working. We will have to provide autonomy to the universities. They need not look forward to a piece of paper from UGC to start any change. They need not look forward to AICT to start any change. Then we have to give autonomy to the teacher, because it will be the teacher who will decide whether this particular part can be done online, this particular part can be done offline, how I can address higher level skills. Should there be really 4 questions in the examination, or only 2 are enough? So all this will have to be left to the teacher. And finally, even to the student, freedom to the student is coming in a big way, because now the student might say, sir, I am doing mechanical engineering, but my interest is to have 2 courses in music, and the policy permits it, and we have to enable it on the ground to have done that. And because the world has realized that unless the combination of subjects happen, things don't really happen. Stanford University is one of the best universities in the world. 2 years ago, they modified their BTech course in computer science to evolve into 2 5-year programs, and first 5-year program is computer science plus English. So they have a 5-year program which is computer science and English, and another 5-year program which is computer science and music. Now, for all of us academics in this country to believe how computer science and English will gel together, how computer science and music will gel together, looks like a little a far-fetched dream, but nonetheless, the world now realizes that this freedom has to be there to meet individual aspirations much better. A student is very good in cricket. If he learns physics along with, I mean, he learns projectiles better. He'll become a better cricketer. Music, if he learns our ancient temple, I think in Kerala, where every pillar gives you the sound of a different instrument. Now, how those pillars have been designed? Now that's an architecture and physics put together. So we'll have to give the freedom to everybody. So everybody will have to exercise freedom, will accept freedom, and system will have to enable freedom for everybody. That I think is the biggest mindset change which we all have to take up.
Right, you rightly said, Professor Dr. Aggawal. There is one question for Vigneshwari ji. The question is that you have stressed on learning, joyful learning, and freedom for students. So basically, the question is how in Kerala you look forward to bring these innovations.
So, as mentioned in the NED policy in itself, now the testing is going to shift from rote learning to only core competencies, which would ensure that the student need not mug up unnecessary details. And now, because the information, everything is available online, those details, those skills which are only required for students can be taught to them. So once the core competencies are taught, and when the student feels that whatever I'm learning is going to be of some use for me in some point of time in my life, that would definitely instill a sort of passion for learning in the students. If I'm learning, say, for example, the log, we used to in our physics chemistry days, we used to learn all these log book and everything. We used to by heart it. We used to read random equations. We used to mug up everything. So I used to wonder why on earth am I learning this? Because I'm going to enter into journalist field, or I'm going to become an engineer or something. Why should I learn all these things? If it is only for the sake of understanding, I can do it in another way. I need not get into it like do the rote learning kind of. If that is made understandable to the students, definitely the student would accept it. So as I mentioned, the implementation part is very trickier, be it Kerala or any other state for that matter. So it would take time. We need to put everything on place, be it infrastructure, be it the tendency. For example, it is bringing in a mix of different streams. The students might accept it. The teachers might also accept it. What about the society? What about the parents who want the students to become only doctors or engineers? And if I'm ready, if I wanted to do something in music, how am I going to do it? So it should start from the society. It should be all encompassive so that it is accepted and it is sustainable. So,
right. Right, Vigneshwari ji, thank you. A very perfect and apt answer. And here we close this session. And thank you for all of you for joining us. Vigneshwari ji, Professor Charan, Mr. Ernest from Ghana, and Professor K.K. Aggawal. Interesting discussion. I know time is very limited and there is a lot to discuss and a lot of interesting things to discuss. But with paucity of time, we have to close it here. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. We wrap up this session.
Thank you, Karthik. Whatever you have asked to Professor K.K. Agarwal, I want to add something.
Yes.
Our present system is based on mistrust. We have an exam, we put the invigilator. Over invigilator, we put the supervisor. On supervisor, we have a central superintendent. On the central superintendent, we have a central flying. So our whole system is based on mistrust. Actually, we are to create trust. Trust the students and trust the teachers. That's
Right.
the mindset we require. Thank you.
A very right point said in the closing, and thank you so much. And the trust is very important, and I think this new education policy will stress more on it. So here I close, and we move on to the next aspect of the event. Thank you.